Hey, gang, got a special one for you today. We're going to cross it over with Locked On Buffs.
You are Locked On Huskers, your daily podcast on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, gang, DP here, Locked On Huskers. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. You're Huskers every single day. It is a big, huge honking week here in Lincoln, America, and we got lots to talk about. We're going to cross it over for you. But first, Mark, let them know. Pay some bills.
Thank you, DP. This episode of Locked On Huskers is brought to you by Gametime. Now, if you know me, you know I love a deal, and I hate paying any more than I have to. I'm always tracking down the best bargains for any event that I'm going to. Well, that hunt for tickets just got a whole lot easier thanks to Gametime. Gametime is your place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months out in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up until the day of the event. And you can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less than what you paid, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. So snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. DP, back to you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. And again, we appreciate you. This is where we freeze. Give people a chance to subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Get it done so you get this content each and every single day. It's a big week for college football. And little did we know that this would be the most talked about of all the games in the country. We could have asked this 3 weeks ago, and it would have been, hey, what's the biggest game of the week? And everybody would have said Texas and Alabama, and everybody would have said that. Little did they know that little old Nebraska and little old Colorado, two thrown away programs, would be the feature for this week's college football schedule, and it's exceptional. Greatly appreciate you guys hanging out with us, you everydayers. Thank you very much. Well, let's bring in Kevin Borba for Locked On Buffs. Kevin, first of all, thank you, kind sir. How the heck are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me. It's an exciting week at college football. I think we kind of underestimated how exciting these two programs would be. And that's kind of crazy because we both cover the team so closely. And it's like, we didn't expect this kind of magnitude.
Yeah, it's lightning in a bottle. And to think that, okay, through everything we would hope would happen, of course, it didn't finish the way Nebraska hoped it would in Minnesota. But immediately, 3 days later, Colorado made its presence known with authority. As a Buffs aficionado and fanatic, what was last Saturday like for you? Look, what was it like to sit and watch this version of the Buffaloes take the field and perform the way they did?
Honestly, it was, for lack of a better term, it was crazy. My phone was blowing up because so many people knew that I started covering Colorado when Coach Prime was hired. And so the whole offseason, people were asking me, how good is this team? How good is this team? I'm like, I think they have good individuals. I've never seen this team play together. I went to the spring game, and 60% of the players I saw there were not on the team for opening day. So I was like, it's really hard to tell you right now that this team's going to be great or bad, whatever it's going to be. And so the offense was electric. Defense could use some work, but it was the first week, and they always say that old cliche saying from week 1 to week 2. We all know it. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with how efficient and effective they were against TCU, who was fresh off a national championship appearance.
Yeah, there's been some devaluing by the media and by fan bases to say, well, TCU's defense is awful. No, this is a defense that played in the playoff system. Like this is a veteran group. But the lead story has to be Coach Prime. The lead story has to be that. For where the program was a year ago, what's been the temperature in the room prior to Saturday? What were Buff fans thinking about Coach Deion Sanders?
Yeah, I think the thought around Coach Prime was that he was going to lead them to success. And obviously every fan base before the season is excited about their team, as they should be. But there was like a genuine buy-in. There's like a genuine sense of like, we all knew this was going to happen. We all knew Coach Prime was going to come on, lead them to victory. He embraced the underdog role. Him and the team have embraced this us against the world kind of role, which I personally love, because even when now they all have all this hype, they still are holding on to the articles where it was like Colorado's destined to fail or right before the game, an ESPN analyst said they're a worse roster than UMass, who, if you look at any rankings ever, UMass is typically 133, which shout out to the Minutemen. You guys will get up there eventually, but that's where Colorado was kind of being talked about by the public. And so indoors, in-house, it's we got this, it's us versus them. And so I kind of like I like their energy, and they're going to keep it the same way regardless of what happens.
So much of this is the messaging and the narrative. Outsiders have looked at it and said, how can this will ruin college football, tearing apart your roster, going all transfer portal. This can't be good for the game. What do Buffalo's fans think about the transfer portal and what it's done for your roster?
Yeah, they love it. Colorado actually had to make some adjustments to the transfer portal because prior to Coach Prime's arrival, they really couldn't. They could take transfers, but it was very difficult to transfer into Colorado academically. Yeah. But realistically, I think a lot of people miss the point on his roster flip. That roster went 1-11 last year, and I kind of did a little deep dive with the help of Reddit because those Reddit people always got you. Of all the people that left, I think there's 3 or 4 that are like starters elsewhere. So it's not great. And a lot of them didn't transfer to Power 5 programs. A lot of them went to FCS, Group of 5. And so I think at the end of the day, it was just the way he went about it was public. And I think in some ways, fans of college football still like to think that this is just about college football and it's not a business, but it was always a business, will always be a business. And now we have players getting paid. Obviously, it's not pay for play, but it basically is. And so I think people were just shocked at the brutality of it because it was like, we've never had a coach publicly tell players to leave. We've never had a coach tell players that he does not want them on camera. But realistically, that conversation happens every single year, probably dozens of times at every program across the country.
Kevin, I have to ask this question because it's been a part, of course, Nebraska's going through its change of coaching staff. When the coaching position became available, who was candidate 1 and where did Deion Sanders land? Like, what was the response initially to that? So was he candidate number 1? Was there somebody else that they thought should be the head coach?
Yeah. I think, honestly, when it came to the Colorado job search, Deion Sanders was like linked immediately. And it felt like that was like every school has like a dream hire, when Texas was hiring before Sark, it was Urban Meyer. Yeah. It was like, Urban Meyer's our guy. He's our home run swing. And then everybody else after that was like, okay. I feel like Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, was like option number 1 for Colorado, but it was the other way around. Was Colorado his option number 1 because he had USF coming after him, Cincinnati, TCU at the time, the year before. And so I think he was option number 1. And I think it felt like a big swing, but obviously they were able to connect.
So much of this was immediately tied to the transfer portal. And then the announcement, listen, I'm bringing Louis. And in name, there are 3 players that jump to mind, and 2 of them have the same name. What was the fan base thought on Shedeur being quarterback 1 walking in the door?
Yeah, I think people on the outside wanted more reaction, like, oh, he has to earn it, which, I mean, in a way he did. Like, he showed up and was the best quarterback there. And obviously it's not nepotism when you throw 500 for 500 yards.
5 bills, yeah.
Yeah, it's not really nepotism. He's not a nepo baby by any means. But right. I think the problem with Colorado was the fan base was so defeated that, like, they did not care. Like, that fan base was like, please bring in some talent. We do not care. Like, obviously it's sad to see these kids go because at the end of the day, we're all human and there's a lot of emotions and personal connections that we make, whether it be fans or coaches. And so I think there was some sadness there because it's like, oh, these guys tried their best. It didn't work out. But they just wanted something to be excited for. Like, they just wanted to be relevant again, which I think everybody in college football wants to be relevant, because the worst thing you could be is bad and irrelevant. And so I think Colorado fell into that category.
Look, 2 of these programs lived in the same neighborhood for a while, and that neighborhood got subsidized. And everybody wants to be a part of it. We'll throw the break. When we come back, we want to get into the rivalry, the history behind this thing, and how Buffalo fans think of Husker fans. And then without real cause, I want to go through the roster and what the expectations are for Saturday's game in Boulder, Colorado. It's DP with Kevin Borba. Locked On Buffs, Locked On Huskers. Hey, gang, once again, thank you for the crossover. Let's get it done. Locked On Buffs, Locked On Huskers, again, the game on Saturday. Before we get into the conversation, Mark, pay the bills.
Thank you, DP. This episode of Locked On Huskers is brought to you by Nutrafol. You don't have to choose between better hair growth and your health. Nutrafol provides a whole-body healthy approach for men that promotes healthier hair. No drugs, no compromises, just better hair. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve your hair growth, visible thickness, and visible scalp coverage. Their hair growth supplements use physician-formulated, natural, science-backed ingredients. Their drug-free, patented technology provides consistent, reliable results without compromising your sexual health. And it works! In a clinical study, 84% of men showed improvement in their hair after 6 months. You can take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men and enter the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com/men, spelled Nutrafol.com/men, and enter the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's Nutrafol.com/men, promo code LOCKEDONCollege. DP, back to you.
Thank you, sir. Greatly appreciate it. It is a big week. I'm actually headed to Boulder. I'm looking forward to the massive amounts of chaos that await. What do Colorado fans think of Nebraska football and Nebraska fans?
Yeah, I had to do a deep dive into this. I'm newer to the rivalry.
Okay.
I knew it was a rivalry, but I didn't know how deep it ran. For lack of a better term, I'm familiar with Red River, Texas, Oklahoma. I'm familiar with the Iron Bowl, Alabama, Auburn. But Colorado, Nebraska, I think, is one of the more underrated rivalries in college football. If you ask any Colorado fan, especially this week, and I think this is a testament to Coach Prime and what he's doing at the program, is he's making sure that the team knows it's a rivalry. And so in effect, he's making sure the fan base knows that this is a hated rivalry. So there's no red in Boulder. There's no words that start with N or whatever. This is mortal enemy stuff right here. Like,
yeah,
they do not want to see red in the stadium. I know it's going to be sold out. And I know Colorado fans hope that there's more black and gold than there is red. And I won't doubt that there will be, but this is which I love what Coach Prime's doing, is that he's making sure everyone knows that this is a rivalry and they hate each other. And just because everyone's new to this doesn't mean that the rivalries don't matter. And I love that.
So is there some fear that Husker Nation shows up and rides out the building?
I think if you asked before the season, maybe, but I don't know anymore. I feel like Colorado fans are like on cloud. I don't even know what's about cloud 9. We'll go cloud 10.
Yeah.
Like, they're just so excited that they won and now they're favored, which is kind of a change of momentum because they were underdogs in just about every game on the schedule. And so I think there's just so much energy and buy-in from the fans that they're kind of expecting to be a black and gold festival, not really a red and white takeover.
Well, it's funny because the Nebraska fans were, hey, it's going to be safe. We're going to get, trash thrown on us. All the things that are whispered. I went, okay, let's just ask Kevin. He'll let us know whether it's going to be safe to come into Boulder or not.
I think it'd be good. Just stay away from Fraternity Row because, at the spring game, they're throwing snowballs, or the student section. But other than that, it should be fine.
Yeah, that's a thing. That's really a thing, Kevin. It's a thing. There has to be, a part of the discussion as well is the 3-point spread. How does that make you feel? Does it seem like that makes sense to you? Do you think it's low? Do you think it's high? What do you think about the 3-point Colorado spread?
I think it's fair. I feel like Colorado kind of put on a better display in week 1. Obviously, Nebraska looked better on defense, but offensively they looked a little anemic, which, Jeff Sims still working through some things. And obviously he has great potential. It's just, he needs to put it all together. And that's kind of been his whole issue at Georgia Tech and now here clearly at Nebraska. I think the 3-point favor is kind of like a Vegas being like, okay, we need to like balance this out. I think there was a lot of early season bets where it was like Nebraska to cover by 8, I think is what the line was. And so there was probably a lot of Colorado bets. And then obviously a lot of money line bets last week for TCU, Nebraska or Colorado, excuse me. So usually the home team is spotted 3 points or around there. And so I think Colorado's finally getting some respect. And also we learned about them. We didn't know much of anything about them. We knew they had good individuals, and all the fans are saying, oh, we knew this, they were going to be good. We knew they had good individuals. We didn't know if they'd play well together, how the system would be. And so I think now the odds makers are kind of readjusting.
Please tell me what the Colorado fan base thinks of Shedeur Sanders.
Oh, they love him. I think they think he's, and which I can't disagree with him at this point. I think he's a Heisman contender through week one. If there was a Heisman trophy given out for week one, he'd have to be at least a finalist.
And if it wasn't him, it's Travis. So
yeah, it's gonna be Buffalo for sure. But
right.
realistically, I think the fans were more confident. I think it's more so the analysts, myself included, that were curious to see what the jump would be from the FCS to the Power Five. We saw Cam Moore do it from Incarnate Word to Washington State last year, and he had good moments, but there was also moments where it's like, dude, what are you doing? You can't do that anymore. And Shedeur, honestly, if there was a such thing as a college vet, he looked like it. Like if he was a 10-year college vet, I wouldn't be surprised because he was slicing and dicing that defense. Throws a great deep ball. And I think the biggest question around their success was, can he adjust quickly? And so he clearly has adjusted quickly. And so the fans love him, and they're very, very much on board the Shedeur Sanders Heisman hype train.
Kevin, is there any fear from Buffalo fans about anything that Nebraska does? What does the fan base expect from Nebraska? Let's start offensively. Are there any concerns or things that you can take advantage of?
Yeah, I think Nebraska's run game. I think there's a lot of reasons to be fearful. Our TCU put up, I think it was 270 yards, 260 yards on the ground. And honestly, not sure why they stopped running the ball. If they run the ball consistently against Colorado, they probably win that game. Because I said it on my show, if Colorado's defensive line had a pulse, I guess, they win that game by double digits. If they could slow down TCU's run game, they win the game by 20 points. But they were unable to. And so Nebraska has a stout running back room, and they have Jeff Sims, who, while his decision-making throwing is questionable, he is a great athlete. And so that's where I think the fear or the worry comes from, because Nebraska can realistically control the time of possession. We've seen with the new first down rules that you can limit other programs more than you ever have before with how much they get the ball. And so Colorado wants to score fast. But if Nebraska's on the field for 15 minutes at a time, it may be difficult to do that.
On the defensive side for the Buffs, what is the expectation? What changes do you think have to be made? What adjustments?
Yeah, I think maybe rotate more guys in on the defense line, get some more fresh legs in there, even if it's not guys that, I don't want to say you don't want to play, but guys that you're not prone to being like, okay, you know what, you get out there. Like maybe you just need bodies out there a couple times. Obviously, TCU goes as fast as Colorado does, so I think it may be easier this week. I don't feel like Nebraska's pushing the tempo as much, but yeah, I think you got to rotate more. And then it comes down to tackling. A lot of missed tackles, and just you need that front seven to kind of beef up somehow. And maybe that's the insertion of Jawan Mitchell, who is a transfer addition that they made like literally a week before the season from Tennessee. So maybe he comes in there and has a role, but they need something to change, because obviously you can't consistently go in and give up nearly 300 yards rushing and still win games.
The shirts from Nebraska will say these words: "Run the damn ball." That is what that's what the chant is. We'll throw the break here, and then we'll close out this crossover version of Locked On Huskers, Locked On Buffs with this question. I need to know from Kevin, what are the thoughts on Matt Rule? What are the thoughts when you ask outsiders what they think about the Husker coach? And then we'll get his prediction, if he's willing to give one, on what happened Saturday in Boulder, Colorado. This is Locked On Huskers, Locked On Buffs, the crossover. Hey, gang, it's been a good one, and I want to thank Kevin Borba. Appreciate you, brother, for doing this. Looking forward to this great weekend that is. Nebraska Husker fans get locked into their thinking in the vacuum that exists, and as a Buffalo fan, you'll understand that as well, that sometimes the vacuum can consume your thoughts and then change the narrative without even talking to anybody. Nebraska fans have their opinion of Matt Rule and what he is as a coach. As a Colorado fan and as a football fan, what are your thoughts on Matt Rule and this Husker team?
Yeah, I think the Colorado fan base is kind of, there's like a growing animosity between them and Matt Rule. We saw it a lot on social media. There's like this continuous thing of like, is Matt Rule copying Deion Sanders, or is Deion Sanders? There's this whole thing every single week. It seems like Matt Rule does something where it's like, has he been doing that since he was at Temple, or is that something that he's doing now? And I think there's a lot of coinciding philosophies between the two. They're both kind of old school in a sense. Obviously, Deion Sanders is more prone to is more prone to taking on the modern route, but he also has that old school tendency where the top players are wearing the cool numbers. Got to earn your number and stuff like that. And so I think the Colorado fans kind of, which I love because I think you need to kind of get that rivalrous spirit going. But I think they helped the rivalry a little bit with a little more reaching than what there could have been. But I think that's the great part about rivalries is if you're not worked up about your opponent, then what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, look, this thing, again, lightning in the bottle. It's been captured, and folks eyes are drawn to it. It's going to be exceptional. And again, I know that a lot of Husker fans are going to be in Boulder. It'll be interesting to see. I'm not sure what the temperature of the room is going to be. Like, I don't know if they're coming with the expectation that they're going to do well, or if it's fingers crossed and clenched up. We won't know until we get there. Can I ask you, if you had to grade Colorado's offensive line on a scale of 0 to 5, where would you 5 being the best? Where would you put their offensive line?
I put them at a firm 3.5 because the way I was talking about them throughout the offseason was they were like a 2 or a 1 because obviously haven't seen them play together, which was a concern of mine. I looked at their PFF grades and they had a lot of guys that were not highly graded, and one of their best offensive linemen was deemed ineligible by the NCAA, which I always like to do a quick 10-second rant. NCAA says they care about the student athlete. They don't. We know this.
Facts.
It's a fact. He transferred to get some mental health accommodations that he couldn't have at his previous school, and apparently that doesn't matter. Either way, that's my rant on the NCAA. But I was worried about the offensive line and how they protect Shedeur, because Shedeur is mobile, but he's not Jeff Sims mobile. He's not like he could run, but I think he's a more methodical runner. He runs if he has to, not because he wants to. And so I was worried about that. And honestly, they held their ground against TCU, gave up a few sacks and stuff, but much better than I thought. I thought the defensive line was going to be better than what they were. So I had them flipped.
That's the next question, is to grade that defensive line.
If I had to grade them off TCU, I'd probably give them like a 1 or a 2. Because honestly, when you get gashed for 270 yards rushing, it's not great. TCU was able to kill every momentum that Colorado had. That Colorado would drive down the field, score a touchdown, and then all of a sudden TCU runs the ball a couple times and they're halfway down the field. You can't have that, especially in college football. It's all about the kill shot. I think at any level of football, college football you're the most susceptible to the kill shot, the dagger, whatever you want to call it, where if Colorado had scored 2 times in a row, that's over. The game is over. But they were never able to close the door. And so I think if they want to be able to do that against Nebraska, they not only need to stop Nebraska from running the ball, but they need to be able to watch the offense march down the field, score a couple times, and then stop Nebraska again to get the game out of reach. Easier said than done.
Stopping the bleeding is a big deal. It is, in fact, a big deal. All right, Kevin, before we let you get out of here, 2 things. First of all, I need to know what is the chant that Husker fans are going to have to get used to hearing in Boulder from Buffalo fans. Is there, like, here we've got 3 words that we say, and I always close the episode with that. But for you, what do Buff fans say? What do they?
Maybe not like a Heisman chant for Travis Hunter or Shedeur Sanders. Maybe a nice little Cook Time chant. This is the first home game of Colorado in the Deion Sanders era. So maybe there's gonna be new chants. I feel like we're out with the old, in with the new. So we'll bring on some new ones, I guess.
Man, I'm looking forward to that. What's your prediction for this game?
Yeah, so I got it wrong last week. I predicted a TCU close one. I think Colorado. Oh,
you just got yourself in trouble. Here they come. They're in the mentions. They're all the way down in the comments. They're going to clip that and run with it.
The brain was moving faster than the mouth. I think Colorado wins by a couple scores, to be honest. I think they get it into a position where it's a shootout, and until Nebraska's offense can show that they could win a shootout, I'm going to bet against them.
Kevin, once again, thank you for what you do. Locked on Buffs, Locked on Huskers. We appreciate you being a part of the First Watch and listen each and every single day here on Locked on Huskers. Kevin, thank you very much. But we always close with those 3 words that we love so much here in Lincoln, Nebraska. Go Big Red.